Hi guys, it's me, Lily, aka Jennifer Diaz, is a trans girl off of Tumblr. So in this video I'm going to be discussing my anxiety. So as I mentioned, I've gone through my medical transition. When I was 15, it was 15, I came out to my mum and she wasn't very accepting. I actually came out to her at the worst possible time though. As you guys know, well, some of you guys know, my ex-girlfriend comes from Texas, and she was my first lesbian relationship, and, well, I live in the UK, and so it was a long-distance relationship, and also, basically, when she finished school, that was when that was my bedtime, and so I couldn't be on the computer because I didn't have a laptop at the time. So basically, I texted her on my phone in my bedroom for about an hour after I went to bed, which often built up pretty big phone bills. And during the summer that year, I'd been on. It was summer between year 10 and year 11. Year 11 is basically the last year of high school for those of you who don't live in the UK. I went to this caravan site down south with my grandparents, and I had no internet or anything there, and I was there for about 2 weeks. So while I was there, I was also having phone calls with Elvira, and they were very long phone calls. And in September, I got the largest of one of the September 2009. I got the largest of one of these phone bills, which was £100. And when my mum found out, she was very angry. And I thought, while she was yelling at me about this, it would be a good idea to come out to her. My mum ended up being more angry about me coming out than my phone bill. And she kicked me out of the house that night. And several nights after, I spent the night at my dad's and my grandparents' on alternating nights. And it wasn't a great experience. And I think it was perhaps what tipped off the school at the time that something was going on at home. I've actually lost my train of thought now. I had a train of thought here and I forgot it. Large phone bill. Ex-girlfriend Texas. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, that's when I first came out, and I guess I was hoping for a lot more support. And I remember my train of thought. Guess I was hoping for a lot more support, and unfortunately, I didn't get that from my mum, which wasn't great. And yeah. Anyway, about roughly the same time, my dad convinced me to go and talk to my GP. So I booked a GP appointment and saw my GP and explained how I was feeling and stuff. And it was, aside from telling my mum, in fact, it's a lie. Seeing the GP was probably one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. In fact, that entire year, it was about 2 years after I came out, I was still living with my mum. As you guys know, I ran away from home at 17, but for 2 years I was basically having to do things behind my mum's back to kind of progress with my transition. And so when I went to the GP, it was like I was terrified that someone would see me there, particularly my mum. I mean, I could come up with some excuse as to why I was at the GP, but it's like any excuse would be kind of like my mum going, "Well, why didn't you tell me about this?" So like if it was my asthma, it'd just be like, "Well, if your asthma's bad, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me about this?" So yeah, I was terrified of being caught out while I was at these places, and that was kind of the start of my anxiety. I mean, it was just hiding constantly, and it just wasn't great. And so I told my GP how I was feeling and stuff, and he'd actually not encountered someone who was trans before. He knew of it, but he had never encountered it. And he actually went to me, the NHS does not fund gender reassignment, which he was quite ignorant about it, which not great, but so yeah, I explained it did, and that nearby was Portbrook Gender Identity Clinic, which is the clinic in Sheffield, and that is an NHS operated clinic, and he was like, "Oh right," and so he asked me about how long I'd been feeling this way, how things were, asked me about things with my mum, and both my parents, and I told him that my mum wasn't really accepting, and unfortunately my mum and dad are split up. They split up while I was really young, and living with my dad wasn't really an option. Anyway, the GP said they can't really refer me to a GIC without my mum's consent. But at the same time, he said that Portbrook, I wouldn't be able to be seen by them till I was 18. And he said because I was very close to my 16th birthday at the time, because my birthday's in October. He said what he'd do, he'd refer me to Portbrook and get the ball rolling and keep it quiet from my mum, which I was really appreciative of. It meant that I could just wait through the waiting list of Portbrook, and on my 18th birthday I actually got a phone call to offer me my first appointment, which that was a really good 18th birthday present. And yeah, and he was really understanding. I told him I wasn't comfortable with the letters being sent to my mum's house, because again, that would have impacted on how my mum was treating me, which was already pretty bad. Like, she had her boyfriend searching my room for any feminine clothes, makeup, stuff like that. The sad thing was I was so terrified of my mum and going against her that I never actually kept any makeup. I never kept any women's clothes. The most I kept was she had Littlewoods catalogues on that, and I can't remember how I came across it, but there was one that I ended up taking up to my room and just keep in my room, and when her boyfriend looked around my room, as I used to just look through the clothes and look at the various people and trying to figure out what sort of woman I wanted to be when I grew up. And okay, admittedly, this one was on a more superficial level, but also just I kind of imagined the stories of them women in them pictures, not just how they looked, but also what maybe job they had and stuff like that, and just imagining myself in the same life as them. And my mum did a search in my room one day, and she came across that catalogue which I had hidden, and she confiscated it and was absolutely furious I had it, and pretty much she knew exactly why I had it, and it became a really oppressive environment to the point that I just really couldn't handle living there. And my high school started this process of trying to find me a way out of the house I was living in, which was really great considering I went to Notre Dame, which is a Catholic high school. They really supported me a lot. Like, they caught on quite early to the situation that was going on. Like, they'd heard rumours through the student body that I was trans, and then they also, when I got kicked out them couple of nights, I didn't have my school uniform to take with me, so I ended up coming in school without my proper uniform for a couple of days, and like, they were really understanding of everything, and like, they realised that that house wasn't a great environment for me. They gave my case to their head of student welfare, and they made sure I always had someone to talk to when I needed to. They stayed in close communication with the local LGBT youth group, and it was absolutely brilliant. And like, although they didn't get to see the process all the way through because I went to college before it was complete, all that information got passed on to the college, and the college continued that process Notre Dame had started, and my college ended up finishing for me. And it was great, but I still had this massive anxiety the entire way through. It was like that Easter 2010, I got offered my first place in sport housing, and I ended up turning it down, and part of it was I was going on holiday with my grandparents at the time, and I couldn't really move at that time, and the other part was I was still terrified of my mum, like really anxious and terrified of her. I had this fear that even if I escaped, she'd still find a way to have control of me. Like, in October, or it might have been November, I actually ended up going to my grandparents for a bit until December time because I just couldn't handle living with my mum. November 2009, sorry. But like, I couldn't handle living with my mum at the time. So like, I stayed there for a while. And yeah, while I was there, my mum still used tactics to maintain control of me. Like, when she found out, in fact, it was probably before October I went there, I just realised, because I rang my mum to... I'm trying to remember. I can't remember fully. It was a while back. But I did go to my grandparents for a time, but like, she was always trying to maintain control of me, saying how my grandparents didn't accept me, how they were against me and they were just pretending to be okay with it, which I know they don't fully understand it, but like, she was basically just always trying to keep this grasp over me, make me feel like no matter where I went, I was a disappointment to whoever I was with. I was somehow... it just felt like she was always controlling me, and I always have had this fear of her, and so leaving the house, I was still scared that she'd still find that way to control me. And then it was around July time I got, not July, June 2010 time, I got the second opportunity to go into supported housing, and it was my last and final opportunity. I initially rejected it because I was still really, really, really scared of leaving my mum and her being mad at me, her being angry at me, her trying to keep control of me. And then I quickly realised, realistically, once I'm out of that environment, she can't control me anymore. She doesn't have that power over me. And I rang back about 5 minutes later and just said, I'll do it. I'll move. And it turned out to be one of the best decisions of my life. But things were still difficult. Like, one of my earliest memories of attempting social transition was it wasn't long after I moved into support housing, and one of my cousins came to visit me, and I went out dressed as myself, and they abandoned me in the city centre after they got uncomfortable by how people were staring at us, particularly me. And being abandoned by my cousin, someone I really trusted, I felt really shaken up, and it really left me extremely anxious to try that again when one of my own family members literally turned against me while we were out. And whenever I've tried to socially transition since, that's always stuck in the back of my mind and has made it very difficult for me to do. And I know lots of you will have similar experiences to this, and I'm not the only one who has this experience. I'm just sharing this to try and help people not feel so alone, I guess. And also, this has been helping me raise my own confidence. I mean, when I started this blog, I really was in a bad place. I had a bad experience with a roommate, and basically they used to tell me I wasn't really trans, which really, really hurt me because they were attacking what was my identity, and then they also just had there were a lot of issues between us. I'm not going to put all the blame solely on them. There was some fault on me as well, but the issues, there were some very basic issues that could have been discussed and we could have worked through it, but instead of working through them basic issues, they went to attack me, attack my identity, attack who I was. They also made out I was somehow scary, like I violently attacked them or something. I'd never violently attack someone. That is not the sort of person I am. And they basically eventually moved out, and they tried to turn all my friends against me. Since some of my friends have seen the light and have now seen that there was a lot more happening than what she made out. And, but it really shook my confidence as she was someone I trusted. Basically, she'd been kicked out of her house, and I took her in because I didn't agree with the fact that she got kicked out. And I trusted her, and I felt like I could trust her. They were one of my first friends I'd had since high school, and they basically made it so my entire support network was turned against me. And in one bad friendship, my entire support network got took off me, and it made me feel absolutely rubbish. And I started Jennifer Diaz's trans girl about a year after all this had kicked off. I'd started going to another youth group up in Manchester, and I was gradually rebuilding my confidence, but I still wasn't in a great place mental health wise. And running the blog Jennifer Diaz's trans girl, it's really, really helped my anxiety a lot. I mean, like, I've always had this fear that people will be angry at me for what I have to say, or they will just hate me for what I have to say. And I have this fear of having horrible things said to me. And I guess most people have that fear. But I had that fear so much that I just took too much effort focusing on what other people thought of me. And so, especially out in public, I'm not myself fully. I don't bring my full self to the table. I still have these barriers up. And like, as I've been running Jennifer Diaz's trans girl, it's gradually helped me break down them barriers. And you guys on Tumblr who have followed my blog, you have helped me so much. And I really, really appreciate the opportunity you guys gave me in running this blog and sharing my theories with you. And it might not seem like you helped me a lot, but you really did. It's your guys' support that's got me to where I am now. I mean, like, recently I've started just feeling like I'm stuck and I'm not living my life. And in some senses that's true, in other senses it isn't. But I want to live my life fully. I want to be my full self. And I want to get myself to a place where I can bring my full self to the table. And like, this blog was kind of like a stepping stone for me, making myself more comfortable. I first started submitting like tiny theories to market as a trans girl, and got more content in that people liked listening to what I had to say. And then Jennifer Diaz's trans girl suggested I start my own blog. I did that, and people actually followed it. People actually liked what I had to say. People contributed to what I had to say. And as time's gone on, I felt more comfortable expressing myself in a way I never have done before. And then, also, while I've been running this blog, I've become a supply teacher. I teach people, I work with students, and like, I have to have some confidence in doing that. And that's just building my confidence in speaking in front of people. But so far that's been building my confidence speaking in front of people as someone who seems to be presenting as male, but going by female pronouns and female names. Well, a female name, which is dysphoria-inducing. It causes me a lot of dysphoria to live the way I have been doing recently. And I want to go out into the world and have people recognise me as female, know I'm female, and hear me as female, see me as female, and treat me as female. And that means I need to put in some work on my end. And I'm getting to a place where I can finally feel comfortable doing that. I'm breaking down my walls. I'm improving my mental health gradually. My anxiety was really, really bad a year ago. I couldn't do videos like this. I couldn't talk like this to people. And now I can. And so I'm just taking things step by step. And if you are struggling with anxiety, particularly when it comes to social transition or just anything in general, or your transition in general, sometimes there are going to be times when you need to take a leap. For me, taking a leap was moving out of my mum's house when it absolutely terrified me. But other times, you can just take small steps to make yourself feel more comfortable. I mean, right now, my small step is weighing my hair down while I'm out of the house. And that is making me more comfortable. Another small step I'm taking is using my female voice when doing these videos and just making these videos. It's helping me improve my confidence and decrease my anxiety. And yeah, I hope this video helps. And if you have any questions or anything you want me to talk about next, feel free to comment, ask, or reblog the post in Tumblr, or whatever method is available to you, seeing as this will be on both YouTube and Tumblr. Okay, bye guys.